In the aftermath of the English Civil War and the execution of King Charles I, self-appointed scourge of government corruption Oliver Cromwell stood in Parliament and told the MPs sitting there, MPs who had been squatting in place for 12 years by then, "It's not fit that you should sit here any longer. You've sat here too long for any good you've been doing lately. In the name of God, go." So doing, he put them out and locked the doors behind them. That was April the 20th, 1653, 371 years ago. But I say the time has come again, that the day is long overdue, in fact, to be rid of the whole rotten lot of them. Really, the only question is whether we, the people, should pay for their taxes home one last time or just put them out on the street and let them get on with it. People ask me, what's the solution to the problem, though? I'll tell you where that solution is not to be found, and that's the next general election, or any other. Our democracy has been gelded and the uniparty is in control instead. As far as I'm concerned, to still be thinking a change of ruling party in that poisoned palace of Westminster will make any difference is the root of all evil. Switching colours, or just leaving them as they are, will change nothing. The creatures that have evolved to thrive there, to climb the greasy pole to power, have also made it a place from which no good can come. My honest opinion is you can't build anything clean for decent people when your foundation is a muck heap, and the Palace of Westminster is stacked to the rafters with, well, muck. The fifth labour of Hercules was the clearing out of the mountains of muck from the Augean stables, and the hero had to divert 2 rivers to flush out the filth of years. That's where we are now, with no option but to flush clean and start over. We don't need these politicians. Dear God, save us from the mass of them. We need a torrent of truth to get rid. Last week we were treated to yet another sickening spectacle in that place. The Mother of Parliaments made a whore, the so-called opposition Labour Party leaning on the Speaker of the House, former Labour MP Sir Lindsay Hoyle, to give wriggle room to Labour MPs reluctant to back an SNP call for an unconditional ceasefire to stop the horror in Gaza. Without getting lost in the procedural minutiae of what happened, it looked to me like more of what we've been supposed to get used to in recent years, which is to say corrupt political parties, long since adrift from any honest mooring, any sort of care for people here, the people they're supposedly oath-bound to serve or care for regular human beings anywhere, are making up the rules as they go along to ensure they keep their handlers happy, those handlers being banks and big business, pure and simple. As always, the threats are not just here at home. In France, the government seeks to make it illegal to challenge the safety and efficacy of medical treatments promoted or mandated by that government. The wording of the bill, dubbed Article Pfizer by critics, is as slippery as a person might expect from slimy politicians. No explicit mention of the medical products pushed as vaccines, no mention of Big Pharma, just making it criminal to convince or encourage people to refuse so-called reasonable medical treatment. But the shadows of Big Pharma are unmistakable in the vision of those paying attention who have seen it all before. If the bill gets the signature of the French president, it will make the new crime punishable by up to 3 years in jail, a fine of €45,000. Despite the truth of harms caused being glaring now, so glaring that even the mainstream media can't ignore them any longer, and study after study making plain the damage done by the experimental gene therapies, we had to watch UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak describe those products as unequivocally safe one moment, and then the next acknowledge the government scheme set up to compensate the thousands killed or injured. Over and over, it's the same. All those politicians care about is their puppet master's bottom line. To hell with the health and well-being of the people they are notionally elected to serve. What matters, all that matters, is safeguarding the profits of the transnational corporations that are the destination of anyone following the money. And as always, what slithers into law in one domain will surely slime its way onto the statute books of the rest, so that what's happening in France might soon happen elsewhere and then everywhere. All of this has its roots in 2016, when pesky people in Britain voted for Brexit, and then, on the other side of the Atlantic, more pesky people voted for Donald Trump. Those happenings were what you might call glitches in the matrix, dangerously off-script for the powerful, not supposed to happen. For the first time, and you can be damn sure the powers that be were instantly determined it would be the last time, the democratic will of the people in the UK and in the US defied the intentions of those that thought they had shaped the world in their image and so had it all under control. It was an almighty shock to their system, and so bloody-mindedly they set about quickly finishing the job of rigging the game in their favour. I say everything since, from the so-called pandemic onwards, has been the punishment beating we were seen to deserve. Co-director of the Foundation for Freedom Online, Mike Benz, recently alleged that all of 7 months before the US elections in 2020, intelligence agencies there, in collaboration with big tech platforms all around the world, set in place the means to censor anyone online questioning the safety of mail-in ballots, that process by which people vote in advance. I say again, Mike Benz's research seemed to show that 7 months before the last US election, the US establishment, aka the intelligence military-industrial complex, was demonstrably worried people might be suspicious about a Biden election win seen to have benefited in disproportionate volume from mail-in votes. And so, he says, tech platforms around the world were tweaked so that at a stroke, tens of millions of posts online casting doubt on the legitimacy of mail-in ballots could be censored into oblivion. Benz insists the US establishment set about writing it into law that elections were as much a part of the critical infrastructure of that nation as the power grid, so that anyone asking questions about the legitimacy of the system in place to make elections happen was potentially guilty of nothing less than a cyber attack, which would mean that in the United States, a person posting on social media that they don't trust mail-in ballots is open to conviction of cyber terrorism just by saying as much online. Let me say again, they, and by they I mean the establishment, those that collectively have their hands on the levers of power, are as busy as little bees, and what they're busy doing is making up the rules as they go along in open defiance of the will of the people. They are everywhere. In the World Health Organization, they are pushing through changes to the Pandemic Preparedness Treaty to give unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats the power to insist member states, like the UK, do what they say in relation to climate, disease and much else besides, and not what we the people say via our elected governments. One world government writ large. Mandated medical procedures, anyone? Submission to lockdowns demanded by the WHO? Lockdowns to deal with climate change? All of those and more are coming down the line. Back in the UK, we got the news this week that the Office for National Statistics, our government's preferred source of official data, has changed how it calculates excess deaths. This is surely interesting, to say the least. For years now, the ONS figures for excess deaths, which is to say the number of people dropping dead every day when they were not expected to, when all indications were that they were fit and well, have been alarmingly high, or at least alarming to anyone who doesn't have their eyes shut, fingers in their ears while saying la 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 as loud as their lungs will let them. And for the vast majority of MPs in that toxic hellhole of Westminster, that does indeed mean you. Month after month and year after year since 2021, thousands more people have been dying every month, the young and fit, the otherwise healthy middle-aged, the fit and active elderly, than should have. Up until now, the ONS figures have made that brutally plain. And yet, for reasons that make sense to the ONS, and by extension the establishment, the means by which those totals are tallied, the way that has served us for decades, has all at once been changed, and completely. Dr. John Campbell, who will be a guest later in the show, looked at the fresh figures this week. He showed how in week 21 of September 2023, by the current method, 1,066 people died when not expected to, while by the new method, the excess death toll changed to just 662. That for week 24 of last year, the old method made it 1,172 deaths in excess of expectations, while under the new means it falls to 645. And that while the old method found that in week 32, 427 more people than expected dropped dead, under the new technique we learned that 89 people fewer than might have been expected actually died. Let us imagine how comforting this new method is for those willfully deaf and blind MPs. No more do they have to be pestered by an MP like Andrew Bridgen calling for debates and investigations into excess deaths. Now they can say the ONS data shows there's nothing at all to be worried about. Make no mistake, despite the way the ONS data now makes the figures appear, all of the dead people are still dead, every single one of them. It's just that under the new counting regime, their deaths are no longer deemed excessive. I'd like to be able to explain the changes to the way the deaths are being counted, but here's the relevant page on the ONS website, and I'll confess that the unpicking of that kind of maths is as distant from me as truth is distant from the Palace of Westminster. Here's the thing, the system here and the related systems around the West have been made rotten by a self-described elite that has held on to power too long. The very notion of democracy, that the people hold the power, has been targeted by that self-described elite as the fundamental threat to their authority, and so it's been carefully and deliberately dismantled right under our noses. Will of the people be damned? Now the system is rigged so that our will matters not a jot. If we the people are to regain control, and before any votes in any election might make a difference, we must clear the muck from the stables. To those in Westminster, I refer them all once more to the fabled words of Oliver Cromwell. You've sat there too long. In the name of God, or if you prefer, in the name of all that's good, just go.